obviously it's been a very Deion-centric world in college football. The same way that the Dolphins have taken the NFL by storm, Colorado started 3-0 as well. And then we saw what we saw in Oregon, and that's kind of not a surprise because I think Colorado will struggle and struggle mightily when they're taking on teams that can whip them physically in the trenches. And I believe Deion already knows he's light in those regards, that no matter how many new kids he could bring in, no matter how many of the transfer portal turnstiles were turning in his favor, no matter how many guys who didn't get Louis Vuitton put in their hands and stayed, that you couldn't remake the entire roster into a national championship favorite winning team right off the bat, and you got to win in the trenches in the NFL and in college football, and Deion knows that. And USC might be a big problem in that regard as well, coming up this very weekend. And it's entirely possible they're 3-2 because they also know they're going to have problems if they're injured at crucial positions like, say, Travis Hunter not being there. So the question is, how does Deion handle the losing? That's the question. And I think he's handling it so far in the same way that you would expect. Pitch perfectly. And what do I mean by that? Him saying, I was told, that I'm fighting for clicks over here, and I hear that I'm taking receipts, but hey, we just got our butts whipped. We played like hot garbage, but get me now because this is as bad as I'm going to be. Now, USC might show up today and say, well, on this weekend and say, well, hold my beer. But the whole part about the doing things for clicks, I keep saying to you, as I said last week when I heard it from anybody in Colorado State saying about the way that he comports himself, and then now the clicks, whatever he's doing with cameras on the kids and cameras on himself and all of that is he's selling himself, because the best way to sell the program is to sell himself. And then the winning will come because he's going to get the kids. And that, sure, it's confusing to people. It's completely anathema to people to see a coach talk openly of Heisman trophies for his kids because they're filling the kids' heads with things they shouldn't be filled with. And it's entirely possible that some kids that are in his program are also thinking it's about the clicks and it's not about the hard work and the preparation to get to the winning. How will Deion handle that, right? I mean, wouldn't you think if there's a kid who sees a camera on him all the time, maybe that's why they go out there and stomp on the Oregon O. Maybe that's why they're maybe not taking their gig too seriously. How will Deion handle that? And I'm not assuming that this is what has befallen one of his many five-star recruits that have gotten people's attention. Apparently, there's a couple more five-star recruits that he is bringing into Colorado this weekend to see everything. He's in full recruiting mode all the time. Always be closing, always be recruiting. Kormani McKee, five-star cornerback who joined the program in January. Apparently not getting a lot of playing time these days, or as much as you'd expect. Why? This is how Deion answered that question this week.
You mentioned last week that Kormani seeing the field was up to Kormani. I wonder if you could elaborate on what you want to see him do, one. And two, did he help his case?
Study, prepare.
Late against
Study,
Oregon?
prepare, be on time for meetings. Show up to the darn meetings. Understand what we're doing as a scheme. Want to play this game. Desire to play this game. Desire to be the best in this game. At practice, in the film room, and on your own free time. You do know that I check film time for each player upon the week. Thursday, I need film time from the whole staff so I can see who's been preparing. And that's just not about Kormani. That's about a multitude of them. So if I don't see that, you would be a fool to put somebody out there and they're unprepared. Can't do it. Won't do it. Can't do it. I'm old school. I'm sorry.
Did Oregon help in that regard because he got out there late? Did what you saw?
What a score. Shoot. I started to put you out there at one point.
You see that Broncos game? It would have looked like that.
Leave my guy alone. Leave my guy alone. I love the Broncos. You know I love their coach. Sean Payton's my guy. He's going to get it right. I promise you that. I believe in Sean Payton.
Wow.
That's classic Prime.
That's hilarious.
So that sounds like the guy that was in our production meetings on the planes and, in the van on the way to the stadium. Like that's not an act, folks.
Oh, he turned into Mike Singletary there.
And he did. He went, won't do it, can't do it. I'm old school.
Can't do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
TJ.
Can't win with him.
This is old.
And he had his answer, Rich, before the question was even. He was like, show up for meetings.
Study, prepare. He cut off the question, and he said, show up to the darn meetings, which means I don't know if this kid is.
Right. Yeah. Seems like it's not.
So I'm telling you, note to the Buffalo players who might think it's maybe themselves is about clicks or about, hey, look at my press, look at this, look at the NIL deals. If you don't do the hard work, your ass is out of there. And he will find somebody who can figure out how to play for Deion and play in this system to win.
And he will.
And he will. And he, trust me, he will.
They're coming, man.
Get him now because this is as bad as you're gonna get. And I actually responded to someone on Twitter who basically. Because I saw this video and somebody's like, yeah, like Deion saying it, a guy who never went to meetings and never, was always about himself. And it's just like Deion was one of the most prepared and studied players in the history of the National Football League. Again, I tell all of these stories that he told me that he used to, back when he was with the Niners, he would get like an old VCR and set it up and place it on the commode in his hotel room, so the night before when he's prepping in a bath, he's just chilling out, calming himself for the game the next day, and he's watching film that he would have the Niners prepare on a VHS tape for him to put in and keep going. Up to the last second, he knows exactly. Like, you can't just cover Jerry Rice with your own physical attributes and instincts.
Yeah, right.
Like, you best come prepared.
That's funny.
To go against these guys. Again,
Michael Irvin.
Next week is all about Cowboys 49ers week. And the famous moment where Deion and Irv are marking each other. Deion's marking Prime Irv in the NFC Championship game. To this day, Irv thinks that it was an arm bar, and Deion barks back at him about it not being pass interference. These are guys who have hearts of lions and physical attributes, but also the brains. They know exactly what you're going to do, and he's trying to instill this in his kids. And if they're not going to meetings, he doesn't care if they're 5-star recruits. He'll get another one.
Yep.
But everybody thinks, it's about – honestly, this man is in his 4th decade of national fame being misunderstood and misrepresented. That's the real guy. He is old. He's old school, but he's also putting a camera on for his documentary, and he's putting a camera on for his Instagram feed, and his son's in charge. One of his sons ranked the number 1, I believe Bucky is, because he's in charge of the social media, which is just as important right now as what's going on the field. And if there's any kids in that program that mixes the two up, that one is more important than the other, and the one is the clicks and the Instagram and all that stuff, their asses are going to be out of there. He doesn't care where they are. I saw that soundbite. I'm like, first of all, sounds like the guy I know. And two, I want to talk about this because it's the latest example of what's happening there in Colorado. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.